1740. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. We need the one addition to it, just accepting the minutes of the previous meeting. Where are we here? That's the July 15th meeting. So with that addendum, I'll entertain a motion. Thanks, Gord. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, so then 2B1, the minutes from the July 15th meeting. Anybody have any questions, concerns, errors, omissions? I'll entertain a motion to approve these. Thank you, Trevor. Further discussion? All those in favor? Carried. 3A. Land use bylaw revision. And this is probably where you come in.
I think so. Okay. I just have a quick presentation just on the land use bylaw, what it is, the review, and what we're going to be looking at. So just a bit of background, is probably familiar with this, as to what the land use bylaw is. It's required under the Municipal Government Act that all municipalities have a land use bylaw. What it does is it regulates, prohibits, and or controls the use and development of lands and buildings within the town. It reflects the town's plans for future developments, and it manages subdivision and development matters on a day-to-day basis. And it's also an implementation tool for policy contained within statutory plans, such as municipal development plans, area structure plans, municipal development plans if you have any. What the land use bylaw does, it divides the town into land use districts. So every piece of land within the town has a district. And it outlines in detail what uses may or may not be undertaken on a parcel of land and the standards that must be followed. It provides a clear framework for public businesses and town staff to understand the requirements on commercial, industrial, and residential development. And it also prescribes development standards for uses and structures. So it's, the intent of this review and rewrite is to improve the interpretation and function of the land use bylaw towards the orderly and efficient development within the town of High Prairie. In terms of aspects we're looking at changing, improving, revising, definitions, just update those, modifications to the general and specific land use provisions, adjustments to the land use district, and adjustments in replacement of the land use map. So just examples coming up, definitions. I listed one there, the duplex. The old definition had, let's see if I can get it. It's actually in the bylaw. The duplex means a building containing two dwelling units on the same lot. The up-to-date one is actually a building containing two dwelling units that are stacked vertically, as opposed to side by side. This actually pops up in a number of the land use bylaws we've reviewed the past couple of years, because there's a Supreme Court case with regards to what a duplex is. So in terms of definitions, there'll just be updating of those to, as like a lot of the court cases come up with definitions to what specific uses are and so forth. So we'll just do some updates.
So what are they going to call the side-by-side ones now?
That's a semi-detached. A semi-detached is stacked side by side. So two units side by side with a common firewall between the two. Duplex is stacked vertically with a firewall between the floor between. I have the court case. If you can read through it if you want. It was. I can send you Kelly the information if you guys want.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a
Realtors might like that, yeah.
So, because there's.
We have some.
It was, I think, yeah, it was 2013 where it made it all the way up to the Supreme Court as to what the difference was. Next one. Regulations. We'll be looking at both the general land use provisions and specific land use provisions. General referred to requirements that a person must undertake for any type of development. So a fence is a general land use. It's there are different types of fences. These apply to all land use districts. So the same standard for fence is the same in each district. And then you have specific land use districts which are tied into specific developments. So it might be a single family dwelling. No, it's not a single family dwelling. It's single detached dwelling. You can only get those in certain districts. Single family dwelling is another use we're going to update because you can't actually call it a single family dwelling now. Just a snippet. They have to all be single detached or single units because you can't, under the land use bylaw, you can't zone based on people because there's an issue as to what a family is. Is it like a family of four, or is it an extended family? There isn't any. So it's single detached. You've taken any reference to people out.
Sounds like the lawyer's style.
Pretty much.
So it's not a truck anymore, James, it's a pickup.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, it's a truck. Okay, just land use districts. As required, the town must create land use districts it should be listing the permitted and discretionary uses within each district. Each parcel of land is then designated a specific land use district. Within the district, you have permitted and discretionary uses. Permitted uses are those which the applicant has the right to undertake, and discretionary are those which they may undertake. Just in terms of districts, there's typically two main types of districts. You have conventional districts and direct control districts. Conventional ones, there's 6 main types, which Prairie, I believe, has 4 of the 6. There's residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, open space, and an urban services district, or institutional. Prairie has 4 of those. They have the residential, industrial, open space, and institutional. The agricultural one is theoretically your urban reserve. It's just, you don't normally find agricultural in towns, or in bigger towns anyway. But conventional land uses provide landowners with a substantial degree of certainty and predictability as to what they may or may not do with their land, what may be done on a neighbor's land. The main issue with the conventional district is it places a lot of reliance on the ability of the like when you draft the land use bylaw to predict future developments. So the direct control district was initially set up as a development control for unusual cases, and that's how most municipalities deal with it. So Town of Flair, for example, has 2 direct control districts. One's North Sewer Lagoon, which they don't use anymore. And the other one is a the winter snow dumping grounds, so it's got environmental concerns. And direct control, the decision making is council. Under a conventional district, it's either the planning commission or the development officer. What we're looking at doing is introducing one, maybe two different commercial zones for the town. Just to reflect currently what's here. The other big update is the update to the map. This is the existing map, which I think is a little confusing. It's got a number of zones listed that aren't necessarily listed in the bylaw anywhere. It refers to, you have municipal reserve zone and a public utility lots on there. So what we're looking at doing, this map, GIS department drafted. We got a report from the assessment office here. Someone, I'm not sure who, had started to categorize the various lots in town. So they actually have 2 commercial districts set up, even though there isn't technically any set up yet. So they try to categorize, okay, this type of business on site is a light commercial, or say. So this will be a good starting point for determining, especially within the existing direct control zones, which ones we can throw into a commercial district, which ones say industrial, and then just try to look at keeping the direct control as like the environmental ones. So the right down the middle here, you have the right there. That's the river. So that one, yeah, would be a good spot to keep it as direct control.
There's other
Yes.
regulations with that as well. Like the environmental reserve, I think, isn't that automatically from the government as well when it comes to the river? Like you can't even go down there and clean that up.
Yeah, the environmental reserve is actually not a land use district.
That's just a government.
That's
a
the
provincial
government.
thing.
That's an easement. So you can still zone it, but because I think even on some environmental reserves you can get some sort of activity taking place. Like you can make it into a power trail system. And then, yeah. So we'll probably try to minimize the direct control. Like if there's an area of, say, environmental concern, if it's say a flooding issue, you know we're in danger of flooding out every year. It's a good spot for direct control. But the bulk we're looking at trying to throw it into a conventional land use district. The colors are just so you can tell the difference. We actually have there's a standard coloring format which we will update on. But just for this purpose, it's easier to tell the difference between them. So the final map will look something similar to this. No, this isn't the final map. And then in terms of timeline, we're looking, well, you have the timeline in fact. Looking at, well, we have a meeting today, just go over any issues you've come up in the recent, pretty much since when was the last bylaw passed, 2005, so that's
9 years.
9 years? Okay. So just issues that have popped up, and then December, January, we're looking at drafting, doing a revision. We have started reviewing it and making notes on, okay, this one we can update and tweak based on, I know we're actually in the process of wrapping up 3 other land use bylaws, so we've identified the same issues across a number. So in terms of getting a draft bylaw, we're looking at it by presentation council around sometime into March. With the public hearing for May, and hopefully get wrapped up by May, June. So that's pretty much what my presentation was. Any questions, concerns?
So, the timeline that you have,
Yes.
can you just explain a little bit more what happens within the timeline?
Okay. Yeah, so between now and January, pretty much we're going to do like the overhaul of the land use bylaw. So we'll visit the districts, probably introduce the creation of the commercial districts, overhaul definitions, yeah, so it'd be pretty much a major overhaul of the whole bylaw and have something. So the bylaw we'll get by January would be pretty much what the final project is going to look like. We're going to try and get the bulk of the changes done by January for review by the planning commission.
So how many meetings do you foresee happening in terms of the timeline, November through February for the municipal planning commission?
Our proposal had initially looked at 3, with this one being one of them.
Okay.
But with Christmas coming up, like I'm away the second half of December, Van's away all of December. So we're thinking theoretically we could try get one in December or first part of New Year. And then one probably again in February. And then after that, pretty much be taken it to council. So probably 2 more, I'm guessing.
And those meetings will involve what would you specifically be doing? Municipal planning commission.
Yeah. Typically at those meetings by the January one, we'll have the new bylaw set up. So it needs to be reviewed by the planning commission. Get their opinion. Do you like the changes? Like typically when we do it, we set up the bylaw. This is your new bylaw, and then we have a change report so you can see all the changes made. And then typically, like we'd go through them and say, oh, we did updates to these definitions. Do you like how it's worded? If it's not worded properly, what the changes to these things. So a lot of it will be like we do the legwork, and then you guys review it and say yay or nay, we like this, we don't like it, or we propose a change to it.
So then we'll just spend the rest of this week here going through this and identifying the issues and problems.
Yes, yes. What issues have come up in the past number of years, and what you'd like to see changed, kept the same, and so forth. Or you may have heard of developments that have popped up that aren't necessarily listed in here. So let's say someone brings in like a gravel pit operation which is not necessarily listed, if you wanted to look at those type of issues. So, I'm not sure if you have gravel pit.
I thought you were gonna throw something up there like Tim Hortons.
Well,
It's just a sore spot. Okay. Alright, well then. How do you want to do this? Do we accept this part for information and then
Yeah.
just go through this?
Sorry?
How do we wanna deal with, proceed from here? Do we wanna accept his presentation and then move into the guts of this, or do we wanna
Are we
just jump right?
doing that today?
Hmm?
Are we doing that today?
Well, I don't know, for here,
Feel like we're going through this today?
we could, yeah.
Oh, okay.
you know, everybody, I mean, we don't have to stay here all night,
Oh, okay.
unless you want to.
What's your time frame?
I'm fine.
Okay.
You know what, let's
Yeah,
let's
let's
start
proceed
into it,
into it,
right?
yeah.
Let's get into it, and then that means that the next meetings don't have to be as long.
Sure.
So do we wanna accept that part for information, or just jump right into the guts of it?
You can
Okay.
accept that information.
Okay, so we'll accept the presentation here for information. I will entertain that motion. Thank you, Donna. And then if we go further discussion, then we jump into this, and then at the end of it, then we accept it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we'll do. The further discussion will be getting into the guts of this. Okay. Smart like tractor. Alright, well, you said we're gonna identify issues and stuff that, have come up. Kelly, do you wanna take the lead on that?
Phil, how do you want to proceed on this? What have you guys come up so far with in terms of your
Okay.
preliminary review of the land use bylaw?
One of the first steps, that we do when looking at bylaw, is, well, the first section of any bylaw is definitions, which are, very useful for people if they're actually going to use them. So what we actually did is we took all the land uses, listed within the bylaw, and identified which ones, have definitions and which ones don't have definitions. And a lot of them are actually, they're either listed and have no definition, or there's a definition for a land use that isn't necessarily listed in a land use district. See if I can find one listed, not. Okay, we have one, a drive-in restaurant, for example, is not listed in land use district, but we have a definition for it in the bylaw. Whereas okay, you have a building supply outlet, which is listed but not necessarily defined. So I actually have a couple of pages of uses that are listed and not defined, or that are defined and or listed.
So it's up to us to decide what those definitions are.
We can come up with definitions. We have a good chunk of them. But yeah, ideally, normally what we actually end up doing is any definition or any land use that is listed should be defined, and then vice versa, any use defined should be listed in district. There's no point having definition for use that you can't find anywhere in a district.
And then if something pops up, you can just amend it later, throw it in.
Yeah. Sometimes what a number of municipalities do is they do for some developments, so light industrial, they have a general definition that may include this. So instead of trying to specify every type of light industrial you can get, they do light industrial provided it doesn't produce excess smoke, smell, etc. nuisance. I don't have my bylaw. I know town of Northern Sunrise County, sorry, they have two types of industrial. They have light industrial and heavy, and they base it, so they don't necessarily state in their industrial districts all the types. They just state if it's confined to like the main structure and there's no noise, smell, then it's light. If it's noise, smell outside of the main structure, there's multiple structures, then it'd be a major industrial. So that's always an option. So, because there's a lot of these that, wind energy conversion systems. This one was actually added in
2007.
something like that. So it was actually added in, but as a
I was there.
Yeah.
It was added in because there was some question at the time because some
That's right.
people were thinking that
Yeah.
they were going to do this.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, let's just put the horse in front of the cart and get ready for it.
Yeah.
Because if it's not defined, the thinking was then they could just put up whatever they wanted. And we had no guidelines, was our thinking, so we wanted to have some guidelines in place for that.
Yeah, that one was one that popped up. The use was actually put in, but wasn't necessarily put into any of the districts. So you had regulations, but you didn't say where that use could go. Which is something we're going to look at and see, and like put them in. Typically, something like that, they can be discretionary in any district, is what most municipalities do. Same thing with, say, a solar panel. The alternate energies are skipping my mind. You have geothermal, solar,
Wind,
wind, and there's one more.
water.
Yeah, water, hydro. So those ones typically, they go as a discretionary use, so in any district. So theoretically, someone could put it in, but there are strict standards on those. So it's another issue that's popped up, which you guys may think is strange, is medical marijuana facilities. The federal government have just allowed them to occur. So you have a licensed medical marijuana facility, and a lot of municipalities try and play catch up on it. So it's almost easier to get rules and regulations in place before you get one in the municipality. I know municipalities in Alberta have it, Town of Tabor. Blair is just adding theirs. A couple of the counties, Red Deer County, or I think both Red Deer and Red Deer County have some.
Well, something like that, it's, I mean, municipal bylaws are basically plagiarism, we could
Yeah.
just, well,
Yeah.
it's what
We
it is.
borrow from a lot of what we actually use, we borrow.
Why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah. Because I think Flair used it in one of their districts, and I think Flair is in industrial districts, some used it in commercial districts, some just limited it to an agricultural district. But it's a lot easier for the municipality to regulate if they have rules in place ahead of time.
Yeah.
Cause who's in, we had someone from Surrey, I believe, and they're trying to play catch up, cause they had marijuana facilities in the town before they had regulations, and now they're trying to regulate it, and they'll be running into some major troubles. all I have at the moment. Have you guys had any major issues, difficult developments the past number of years?
I don't think so. Nothing.
Pops out.
Everybody hates direct control, but looks like we're taking care of that.
Yeah. That's the.
But that's the only real thing that I think that stands out to me. I don't know, have you guys had anything in the last?
Just that direct control.
Gord, has anybody come and sworn at you in your office?
Not
About
over-
this.
Not over any bylaws.
There seems to be a lot of amending bylaws.
Yes.
How do you keep track of all of that?
The amending ones, typically what should occur is the attached to a land use bylaw, there is a schedule that keeps track of all the amending bylaws. So let's say you have a new bylaw and it gets, if you have an amending bylaw, it comes through tomorrow.
Right.
So you, instead of making a change to the land use bylaw, you just update the schedule. Because the schedule it's part of the land use bylaw, but it's not necessarily an enforceable part. It's an addition onto it. So you just update that schedule, say on it, whenever the new amendment bylaw gets passed.
What do you mean by updating the schedule? There's a consolidation here.
Yeah.
So you consolidate and then you have a schedule at the back?
Yes, yeah,
And then you
you'd
just
have a
keep-
schedule at the
okay.
back, it'd keep track of the amending
Okay.
ones, so let's say you add a different use and there it is, amending on that, it also keeps track of zoning changes,
Okay.
and then, yeah, any amending of it, if it's zone change or wording change, those things, you always keep track of it on there. So, and you just update the schedule instead of updating the bylaw every time.
So then you don't have to bring the entire bylaw forward, you can just bring that section of just the schedule.
Yeah, technically that doesn't even have to go back to council, because that isn't actually a change to the update schedule isn't a change to the bylaw. It is, but it isn't. So
We could split hairs all night.
yeah, the amendment to the
The amendment to the schedule,
yeah, the amendment to the schedule doesn't have to come to council, because
so administration can do that?
yes,
Office consolidation.
yeah, because what is
Yeah.
council approves the amendment,
Yeah.
and pretty much at the same time, they would direct administration to update the schedule in the land use bylaw. So
Oh,
you
okay.
actually kill two birds with one stone.
Alright.
And this bylaw will actually replace this old one, so we'll get a new bylaw number, so it'd be probably 2015 by the time we get through. So typically land use bylaws are updated, well they're recommended to be updated every 5 years.
Oops.
Yeah, most municipalities around here don't tend to do that. Like even some of the big cities, because city of Edmonton, they took 15 months, I think, to update the land use bylaw. So if you try and do that every 5 years,
So this isn't it's not out of,
no.
what's the word it's not unusual for it to,
No.
okay.
This one is actually pretty good. So, 'cause this is an 05. Northern Sunrise, I think, they still have an 01 bylaw. And they've gone through some major changes.
Yeah.
I think they almost have more changes to their bylaw than original.
Well, and I think with some of the development that's happening around here now is a good time to, instead of trying to, like you say, play catch up, get ahead of the curve. take this and we review this and then we come back, or do we keep banging away on this now, or?
Is there a way you can identify all the changes like you suggested within the definitions that we can have?
I can send you them. Thank you.
Yeah, not now, but I can just send it to the.
Yeah, send it to us and then we can review it and go through and.
as well, so that for the next meeting, we'll deal with the definition changes and.
December 24th for the next one?
Huh?
When's the snack?
Okay, so there's my,
Good.
my thing.
good.
So, the ones that, okay. So the ones that are highlighted, uses that have, that are defined, not necessarily listed in any district. So, let's see if I can make it bigger. Is that better?
Yeah.
So you have something like amusement facility, so you actually have it defined, but not listed anywhere. I can't even spell dealership. Like not mode of dealership. Something defined, like a drinking establishment, drive-in restaurant.
So those they're defined, but they're not listed?
Yes, they're defined but not listed.
And by listed, you mean what?
Listed means you will not find them in any land use district. Cause if you scroll across, take a look at this top one, amusement, automotive dealership. If there's a D or P in this column anywhere, it's, a D is, discretionary development and P is permitted. So if you scroll across, in no land use district you get an automotive dealership, which you guys have a couple in town.
Three. Two of them are in direct control and the other one is
Probably industrial.
general industrial.
Yeah. So,
What's that? Well, but how would this have been missed? Even with all the amendments? I mean, I'm
Or
just-
maybe it's just
I'm
that
just curious.
it's just general,
Yeah.
right?
quite often, actually a lot of the municipalities, they run into the same issue. They have definitions for uses, but they don't actually list in any given district. Like, chances are this garden suite one, that might be in addition at some point. Yeah, well, maybe not. Cause garden suite's fairly a new term. Hotel, yeah.
Well, maybe it was just decided that it's there already, because when we did this
Yeah.
land use bylaw in 2005, everything was built, so we just,
And
Ah.
chances are, I'd say a lot of these tied into previous ones.
Yeah.
It was probably just a follow on from the previous bylaw before that, so.
So what are you suggesting to do with them if they're,
If they are, existing in town, we'll probably need to slot them into a district to, quite a few of these are actually commercial related. Hotel is commercial, liquor store, commercial, personal services establishment would be commercial. So we're looking at setting up the one, maybe two commercial districts. like possibly a highway commercial one, and then general commercial where you get like your store, your restaurant, your grocery store, those things. And then some sort of possibly a highway commercial where you might get gas stations, like an automotive dealership, auto repair shop, those things. So with these ones, if it's like a restaurant, yeah, we'll probably throw it into either one of the new districts or an existing district. And then
We're gonna have to be careful with this because, like, depending on how we define a district,
yeah,
and that, for example, Eva's Cafe, which is off the beaten path a little bit, not, kind of on the borderline between residential and downtown. So then we just sort of have to make sure that we have that in the right district, because if we say, well, that's residential,
yeah.
well, then somebody can go into the middle of a subdivision and put a restaurant there, right? If we have the definition wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, the definitions just tell what the development is, they don't regulate what district they go in. So in that case, we would define a restaurant being whatever, but what it comes down to is what district it goes into. So chances are it go into a commercial district. So therefore any of the existing restaurants would be zoned commercial if it's in a commercial district.
We're gonna have some funky lines on this map.
Yeah. Typically with zoning you can actually get, like down one street you can get 4 different zones. You don't necessarily always have to have blocks.
Okay, so that's not unusual then?
No.
Okay.
No, like in some places downtown, particularly in downtowns, you have, say, 3 blocks of residential, 3 blocks of commercial. Normally you don't get residential and industrial together because they're incompatible most times. But yeah, no, it's quite common. You might even get, say, an R1 and R2 and R3 on the same stretches. Same stretch road. To get matters even more complicated, you can actually get 2 land use districts on the same property.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, split zone, Rich.
That's like for home-based business and stuff like that?
For home-based business, you could do it. Flair just put one in. The only reason I keep bringing up Flair is because I'm dealing with it at the moment. They have an office in a C1 zone and a shop in a C2 zone on the same property. So they're both commercial, but they had to split zone them. It's actually the MD of Smoky River's office.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Phil, how do you go about identifying practically these structures as they exist in the town?
That's where the assessment department comes in, because they have with most of them, with the exception of the numbered companies, you can typically tell what that business is. If it's say MNP or is it a restaurant, or you can typically tell what type of development is based, like the assessment, because that's how they set up their assessment. Is it a commercial operation, industrial operation, residential operation?
I think this is where we're fortunate that we're a small town because we know a lot of this stuff, because we live here.
Yeah, and the map on that one thing that we created was actually based on the assessor's tax roll. They're not entirely sure who started creating it that way, but that gives us a good starting point for working out where in town these things occur. So
you'll be taking the assessment information
yes.
and trying to slot them into these definitions.
Not into definitions, we'll be throwing them into the land use districts.
Into the land
Yeah.
use district, okay.
So, the problem would be possibly home-based businesses because they can be run out of a residential district.
That's one of our biggest problems. Home-based, I think, is big, an issue that comes up all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know why it's a problem. Have you been able to identify why within our land use bylaw?
Home-based businesses have always been a problem because it may start out as, say, a single person doing it. So, like you have an accountant doing it, and then they hire 2 extra people. And trying to define when a home occupation becomes a commercial use can be problematic. So typically, you always need to drop it down to a major and minor. So, like a minor home occupation would be just use the house only. You can only use the house. If you want in a house in a garage, because some people set up like a mobile, like repair unit, which they use the garage too. So with home occupations, you can limit it to which buildings they use on site, number of employees, number of vehicles on site, and then if it exceeds, say, 2 employees and 2 vehicles, then they have to apply for a rezone to a commercial. Something like that.
This is no small undertaking. That's why it takes 8 months.
What might actually end up doing is you might end up with legal non-conforming uses. So that quite often happens with new land use bylaw. So instead of trying to catch everything off the bat, like chances are we'll miss some. So it becomes legal non-conforming. You deal with it at the time when they want to change the existing operation. So, or if assessment goes out and says, hey, these guys using 90% of their houses in commercial operations. Yeah, we found with a lot of the cases the assessors are good people to use because they actually have to base it off what the building is, the use of the building and so forth. So.
Alright.
This is good.
But yeah, no, I can definitely send you this one. And then even some of these, these ones here, these ones are uses that are actually listed but have no definition. So some of them are fairly straightforward, but like a sports facility, senior citizen home, don't like that too. Like a semi-detached dwelling, there's no definition as to what a semi-detached is. So we'll come up with some definitions for this one. Like this one in particular, an outdoor storage of vehicles and equipment. What constitutes that? Like, 'cause that one can be fairly controversial. And it's in a industrial district. So if someone's storing vehicles outside in a residential district, is it the same thing? So, a multi-purpose facility meaning what? 'Cause that could be, yeah, that could be argued, oh, I have, doing a commercial operation, residential operation, or commercial industrial, or whatever. So, it looks like it's a, it's in the institutional one, so it looks like it was initially set up as a recreation.
That might have been for the, because originally
There is a
swimming
definition
pool
for
and-
multi. There's a definition here for multi-purpose.
Is there a definition?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
Or that?
there is a definition, but I think it's.
No, that's multi-purpose building.
Multi-purpose?
Oh, what
Oh,
did-
yeah,
what did
This
I
one's
read?
multi-purpose facility.
Facility, okay, sorry.
That might have been set up,
Yeah.
that might have been us just trying to get ahead of the curve, with the, sports facility that was originally going behind the RCMP area.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that was the original idea, was to put it back there.
But we also used it for the various in use, for the.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Wow.
A dwelling group containing up to 6 units. So that one is that a
Condo?
either a condo or technically a group of townhouses could be 6 units. So something like that. And then, but then you also have, like an apartment building. Can you get a fourplex is technically could be an apartment building if it's stacked vertical. And then you have a dwelling group containing 6 units. So, because apartment buildings you can only get in one district, that's it. You can only get in mobile subdivision.
I think all of our apartment buildings right now are under direct control.
No, I don't think so.
No, I think
R4.
they're for like,
Oh, no, that's right, they got the, over there, stuff.
Yeah.
so something like that. Auction that, whatever. Yeah, so a lot of these will need to come up with some definitions on or tweak, like a dwelling group containing 6 units. It's in one district and there are 3. So some of them we may actually eliminate and then just group it in under it. Just like a livestock sales yard. Don't get livestock sales yards going into groups.
We had one. Nice. Didn't we? Wasn't that, this
Meat
pro-
shop.
Yeah, the meat shop. We had a meat shop in town. That's probably where that came from.
Okay. Were they selling live animals, dead animals?
Dead.
Okay, so it's not livestock.
Like homebred chicken?
I think there was slaughter in there.
Yeah. No, they weren't, they were going to.
That's probably why it was there, is because they had intended to slaughter.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
which
was,
There's upward provincial regs on those.
well, yeah, and they were in the process of getting all that done, and then they had a, barbecue. With the,
Subtly put.
hey, it was a loss, it's unfortunate, it's good stuff.
Yeah, and then a number of these uses, like senior citizens home, I think we're switching those up to like a care facility. Cause a senior citizen, is a people zone, it's was it the Supreme Court?
We need to be more politically correct with our
Yes,
terms.
yeah, you can't zone based on a person's relationship, so and you can't it's called people zone, so a senior citizen is a person, so you can't zone just for a senior citizen's home. Cause what happens if someone wants to put, say, a children's home in there, like for an orphan, daycare, not daycare, like an orphan's care facility, an orphanage. Is the term I was looking for.
Yeah.
They can require the same type of care as senior citizens might. So it's like a care facility which can include a senior center, child care facility, those things. So we try to group those into a more general definition.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay, so with what you have now, I feel the question that, how do you proceed with all of this, and what's the volume of work involved, and who is doing what, and what's the time frame? I think that's what, some kind of clarity,
Yeah.
and that would be helpful.
So what we're looking at would be to have these things wrapped, like done by that'd be done by next meeting, so that'd be in January. Cause I think December's gonna be jam-packed.
December is useless from a corporate standpoint, it's 2 weeks long.
Yeah.
It really is.
So by January you have the listings.
Yeah, we'll have
defined,
definitions, they'll address,
listed.
probably addition of, try to set up the 2 commercial districts, like, we won't necessarily start assigning points, or we might get to it. We'll see, we'll play that later. Probably set up the zones, do update to the general, general regulations, so you do, parking update. Just the section H, no, not H, section I, where you do general regulations, just update those.
Section what?
Section I,
Section
I and J. Where you do your general, requirements and specific requirements. So just updates to those. Don't see many updates to those. I know parking would be a big one to update, 'cause parking sizes have changed a little bit in recent years. Yes, we'll have the zone set up, and probably, I know our GIS is going to be working on the map, coming up with a nice looking map, use to describe, showing like all the zones. All of our zones are color coded, so you can actually distinctly tell what's what.
Okay.
So when you're doing up the map, are you looking at potential development and growth in the community, or are you just reflecting what's here static?
We're just looking at what's now.
Okay.
We're not looking at what's potential. Cause the potential zones are typically your urban reserve zones, where there's nothing there at the moment. So I think on the north end of town you have an R5, something like that.
Yep.
Which might, like this one here, top left, might almost be better to run into an urban reserve. It doesn't look like there's anything going in there at the moment. So typically your urban reserve is where your future growth is going to occur. And you normally, it only gets zoned to either residential or commercial once a plan is known. So let's say there's an area structure plan or an area redevelopment plan set up for that area, then you're looking at assigning a specific zone.
When we tackle a municipal development plan, would that address God's question in terms of future use?
Yes, the municipal development plan sets out policies for future growth. So in terms of the bylaw review, we will look at the existing municipal development plan to make sure the land use bylaw conforms with that MDP. So that's the way it's set up. The land use bylaw has to conform to the municipal development plan.
The reason that R5 is there in the first place is that it was going to be developed.
Yeah.
Again, we were getting ahead of ourselves a little bit there, making sure we were ready, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen. But that's why
Yeah.
that's there.
For a recommendation for big areas like that would be a suggestion to provide an area structure plan. So the area structure plan would lay out specific lot sizes, location of roads.
There was one?
Is that the West End industrial?
No, up here.
Up
Yes,
there?
sir. Up here.
Is that right?
Yeah.
There was,
Okay.
wasn't Oh, that's not that? I thought that's where that was.
No, cause that's on the east side of the river, Butler's is on the west side.
Oh, that's in the urban area.
Yeah. That looks like just shy of, Stampede grounds
Okay.
from that R5 is from this I believe would be
The
the
graveyard
graveyard,
down to the,
yeah, Eggplex.
Eggplex.
What's the date on your map? 1201? Okay.
1201,
Yeah.
I may need to get that map, because the land use bylaw one has that all zoned as R5.
Oh, all this up in here?
Yeah, that whole northwest corner is R5.
yeah, that's what it is, that has in here is R5.
No, but
So-
that whole northwest corner.
Oh, the northwest,
Yeah.
oh,
So everything west of the river is now 5.
So which is the updated one?
Well, this one's 01, that one's 05.
No,
Five.
this one's 01.
Oh, that's 01.
Yeah.
Well, then,
Okay, if you could send me a copy of that one.
We can do that.
If you
You already have it. That sheet that I gave you, the folded up map,
Maybe
we can give you another
yeah,
one,
we'll
but
send,
I did give you that folded up
Can
map.
you scan that?
No, it's too big for a scanner. I'll just give you one.
Okay.
we have one that we
Mhm.
can just, okay.
Very big one. Okay, and then we can.
Then you can take that, okay.
Yeah, but pretty much with any, like in particular that big location of land, it'd be a recommendation would be do an area structure plan on that. Even if it's just for future planning purposes, it may not necessarily eventually look like that, but it gives you a general idea as to how much development we can actually get in there and whether or not, okay,
It's a place to start,
yeah.
so you're not starting from square one.
So yeah, and then if you get developers coming in, you can show them, yeah, this is what we envision for that area. And then they can always do modifications on it, so.
Okay.
So maybe one way to help all of us is that, when you get back, if you can put together a roadmap for us in terms of the tax, that, the objectives till
Okay.
February, so that I can send it to individual members. I think that give us one
Mm-hmm.
vision
Yep.
as to what we're working on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then prepare us for the next leap.
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Alright, so that's everything that you had? Anybody else have any other questions? On the board, Trevor, we're all good? Herb, you got anything? Good to see. Okay, so I think currently we have a motion on the floor. We did that before. This was the further discussion, which was to accept the presentation for information, and then we'll just wait for the information that you're going to send to Kelly, who will then pass it on to all of us. Any further discussion? All those in favor?